jump straight in. If you could let the guys here know who you are, give us a bit of your background, how you got into building. I've given them the short version of why you're on the call, but give us a bit of background on yourself.
Yeah, g'day. Yep, no worries. Yeah, g'day everyone. Yeah, pretty much. Well, look, my background is like most builders, started out as apprentice carpenter joiner, and then pretty much after finishing the trade, I actually went into commercial construction for about 4 years, working with a local company up in Kempsey that did a lot of hospitals and schools and things like that. Got to the point in that company that I was assisting site manager on a number of projects. The most obvious one that some of you might know about is the Clydesdale Pavilion and the Sydney Showground. And then back in '98, they offered me a role as a site manager on the Sydney bus stop, which I actually turned down, believe it or not, to go cotton farming. So, just a midlife crisis. So I ended up getting back into construction, out of the commercial, but more in the domestic new home building back in 2002 as a subcontractor carpenter, and quickly sort of found myself with a brand new franchise company, which many of you might know of now, called GJ Gardner Homes, back in 2003. And then following from the contracting side of things with those guys, they put me in a supervisor or construction manager role because of my background. And yeah, look, one thing led to another. They sort of had to, because the master franchise owner at the time, he ended up buying 2 franchise areas at the stage, but the master franchise sort of said, well, you got to open the second office. So they sort of sent me down there to become the general manager of that business, which I did for 14 years. You might ask why I decided to leave that company, because they really had great models, great operating systems, some of which I've adopted in my own business structure. Look, it was just really the way that I was sort of being treated to a degree. They promised me the world, and just kept moving the carrot down further down the road. So look, the whole arrangement was that I was going to profit share in the business, and eventually owned the particular franchise that I was managing, but both master franchise and the franchisee seemed to keep sort of pushing the distance around. So it took me 14 years to realise that I was chasing a dream. So the long and the short of it is I resigned from them, and here we are 3 years later with my own successful business. We've been trading since I think 2016, July 1, 2016, we actually kicked off trading as such, and we're sort of in our official second year here and now. Like Kurt said, in our first year, we managed to kick a few goals and have 8.1 million in sales and turnover. So we were pretty stoked, considering we only dreamed of selling 10 homes in our first year. So, that's me in a nutshell.
Beautiful, man. Thanks for sharing. So, what were your aspirations when you started out? Because that's already, I'm sure for a lot of guys, 8 mil first year, that's significant. There's plenty of guys been in business a lot longer, for a long time, multiple decades, that haven't got to that milestone. Maybe they don't want to, but it's still a significant turnover. Did you start out wanting to, what were your aspirations starting out? What were you thinking?
Well, when I kicked off, it was just really a case of, these guys really just changed my whole mindset. Obviously I was living the dream, and even some of the people that were working as other franchisees and colleagues alongside me that I've got to know over the years, they sort of said, Mick, I thought you'd be there till the day you died. And look, I believed that. But look, once I was outside that circle, it took me probably, that first year of setting this business up to come to a realization, hey, look, I can do absolutely anything here. And I've sort of gone, well, what's my ultimate end goal? And then I really just started thinking about, the big numbers that we talked about the other day in Kofskert. But my motivation is probably different to a lot of guys, where I've sort of the way that I was treated has motivated me to show these guys, hey, and I mean on a corporate level, not on a local franchise level. So instantly that was big. So I'm thinking, well, you know, you should have looked after me. And the reality behind it is, can it be done? Yes, I know it can be done, because another guy that was associated with the same franchise group has gone out and done his own. And I believe you know him, Kurt, James Stroud, so now trading as Stroud Homes. So both he and I come from similar backgrounds. And yeah, so that's my initial motivator. But the second thing is, look, I just want to have that big asset at the end. So when I get to the year 2043 and I'm going to sell my business, yeah, I plan on, you know, turning that over and selling it to somebody else for $800 million. So that's the goal.
Man, that's I find that fascinating. So just so I get this right, so you obviously saw the systems and the structures that GJ Gardner used to build their empire, and I'm assuming everyone knows who GJ Gardner is, but they overseas as well. I believe they're the biggest builder in New Zealand. I heard they're in Germany. Are they still expanding in other countries as well?
I believe so. I think they were in 4 different countries at the time when I was there. They were actually trying to set up in China, but they had a more of a software communication barrier between the 2 different languages and cultures. So I'm not sure if that kicked off, but yeah, they were in Africa at one point, South Africa, I should say, New Zealand, America. They're quite big in America now, and yeah, so China and so on, they were looking at. So look, I don't think it'll be too long. They'll be in all countries if they keep going the way they wanted to go. They obviously had a big vision to be the world's largest builder by the year 2025, and I think they're close to being on target to do that.
Man, that's interesting. So the whole purpose for having on the call is well, it's not only like hear a story, but it's the mindset. I'm fascinated with the mindset around this, because you were in that company for 14 years. You would have seen their vision, which is enormous, biggest builder in the world. But at some point, you would have just gone, oh, well, that's, you know, it's not, it would have become normal, I suppose, that vision. It's just a part of the day-to-day, you know, what everyone's striving and working towards. So it's a bit like the 4 Minute Mile. I'll talk about the 4 Minute Mile. Roger Bannister, before he did it, was impossible in everyone's minds. That's the only place it was impossible. Then he did it, and then after that, there were thousands of people have done it since then. So I suppose it's a bit like that for you, in that you saw it, you were like, okay, you know, biggest builder in the world, you can set that vision, and then you can actually go about and do it. So your belief around that and your mindset was that it's possible. 1, box tick there. Then 2, they didn't treat you well. So then you've now got this motivation and drive to show them, well, you know, here's what you missed out on, sort of thing. I'm heading out on my own. So it's sort of a combination of those 2 things then that have got you to where you are now. Is that right?
Yeah. So look, that's right. If I've always been around big numbers, so look, achieving high standards, as in like turnover and stuff like that, having obviously seen what the corporate franchise can do. So if I just go back to when I started the business here in Taree back in 2004, we didn't know anybody in town, so it was like complete slate, had to build all those relationships, and just like I did with Coast Building Company, but it was a little easier because I had some relationships already built. But if I just look back at the time that grew, the Taree franchise of the time was only the 4th franchise opened in New South Wales, and the Port Macquarie office was actually the 1st. So in the space of that 14-year period, going to these franchise meetings as such, it was only like 6 guys in the room, and in the end, we were talking 150 franchisees in the room, with I think 26 franchises, New South Wales wide. So yeah, so the growth, I knew it could happen quickly. I certainly always remember the things that worked really well within the franchise, and I've adopted some of those things, or even modified certain things or aspirations that they actually do and function with to work within my business. So look, after 14 years of doing things one particular way, it can be a little difficult to change that mold, but obviously you've got to change it so that you're not copywriting and breaching all those sort of things as well. So it's been fun.
No, excellent. So you saw them go through that growth as well, which is what added to the belief and the mindset, because you'd see how it's all unfolded. What do you mind sharing? What do you think it was that contributed to their success? Like, were they just very consistent in how they marketed or sold? Or was it the culture of the place? What was what's some of the key things?
Yeah. Look, I think it was all of the above. Definitely culture. They very much promoted or ensured that the people that they brought on as franchisees had the right mold, fitted within the franchise dream or vision, so to speak. So, whenever I saw a new franchisee come on board, it was almost the same scenario, that they were crawling on the ground and then all of a sudden they were up and running. And usually that always happened within that 2-year time frame, because of the models and the systems that they have. So really it's the culture. Basically make sure that you're looking after your clients so they become the ambassador for your business. So obviously referrals, repeat business, that sort of thing. So very high on the value that they actually build. Look, not all franchisees get it right. They neglect their client and stuff like that, which all of us can tend to do from time to time. I'm guilty of it, but it certainly reminds me quickly why something's going a little pear-shaped with a client when they're a little upset or something like that. But I can guarantee you nearly every time that instance happens, it's always communication related. So it's either a lack of communication or the wrong communication, or simply the client didn't understand the information that you're giving to them. So when it was put a different way, you get to the end of the build and the clients had a much better experience because you were communicating with them. So very much the culture is like always regular contact with the client, and we do that here too. So every week religiously the client's updated, generally on a Friday. So if they go to the barbecue on the weekend, and one of their mates see that something stopped on the house for whatever the reason, they can just turn around and say back to the person that's asked them the question, say, look, they've stopped because they're waiting on the delivery of something. So very much sort of that mindset within the group. But it's unbelievable the way they get together. So
that's incredible, man, because that's a critical distinction right there. Communication, it's so cliche in this industry that builders are not great at it, but for them to have that the process there of communicating strongly every week, and then a process for selecting franchisees based on understanding that culture, the importance of that, and then communicating well. And obviously looking at you and also James Stroud Homes, you guys are exceptional communicators. So interesting. Now, coming back to the numbers, because that really fascinates me. 800 million. Just to clarify, did you say you want to sell the business for 800 million, or do you want to get it turning over 800 million a year, or is it both?
No, it's actually sell the business for 800 million. So when I was mentioning Rawson Homes the other day, I don't know the exact figure, but I know some people that are very close friends to them. So I believe it's in the order of 600 plus when they sold that to foreign ownership. So look, Rawson did it quite differently in their business structure to probably the way that I'll end up going. But they actually buy land, develop the land, and do complete house land packages, as well as sell direct contracts to the clients. So look, how I'm going to get there is not determined as a definite plan at the moment. I could eventually take a different path and go down that franchising model, but at the moment, my preferential direction is to go down the Rawson Home path, for example, or the McDonald Jones Home path, and just get those big numbers to have the product as a saleable item as a one entity.
So why 800 mil? How did you get to that number? Did you just decide on that one day, or is there a reason why?
Oh, no, look, no, I didn't. Oh, well, I did decide on that was my goal. But as for that particular figure, I sort of foresee, okay, well, look, we're talking 25 years down the track. So who knows what what the future holds. But if I don't set that in writing, and some of my staff come in and they see my yearly Cisco planner on the wall, and they see at the top of it, target year 2043, net worth 800 million. So, you know, that just every time I look at the board or update the board, that big ticket number is just etched in my mind. So really what the ultimate goal is to be turning over around that $80 million annually. And as I might have mentioned to you up there in costs, you know, that looks like basically 2,000 homes constructed each year, having around that, you know, 600 staff employed directly. Of those 600, there's probably going to be between 100 and 150 would be supervisor or mobile people managing sites and so on. So that's sort of the vision. Yeah, there's a lot to work out at the right here and now. The way that the business is going, yes, it's growing quick. It's created plenty of problems for us. Most of them are systems related because we grew so quickly. Haven't had the opportunity to sit down and actually develop the systems properly. So yeah, look, we're running a builder software that's doing the job. It's doing it okay, it's not doing it great. So we've adopted a new system. We're just running data build now and setting that up properly to work specifically the way that we need to you know, generate orders and things like that. And also we've got on-site companion, which communicates with data build for us for the project management side of things. So look, in probably 5 years time, I'll have to, you know, adopt better systems. But for the here and now, the immediate goal is just to get the ironing out of all of the immediate problems that we have, and then I can focus on that growth, you know, year 5 onwards within the business to start targeting those big numbers and growth across from area to area. Because as I mentioned the other day, we were looking at having satellite offices and things like that. Right here and now, we're trading over 3 council shires, so basically the Macleay, Hastings and the Mid-Coast Council areas. So we'll spread that further aboard and head up into Coffs Harbour and further north. That'll be the immediate growth. We'll sort of steer away from Newcastle and Sydney at this time until we got our systems right. So yeah.
So that choice of systems, data build and companion systems, most of the guys listening would be aware of those. Is that something that you've modeled off GJ, or how did you come about deciding on those 2 systems?
I think, yes, I guess what I was probably trying to do when I was searching for software to find something that had the complete package like they had. But the reality is they had built that system themselves or had the right people in to develop it to a point where it did everything. You know, regular weekly updates, scheduling, accounting, the whole bells and whistles. It was really the complete package. Yes, it had flaws in certain areas, but for me, I sort of wanted to set the business up in a similar structure again. That 14 years of doing it a set way is hard to sort of retrain yourself and come out. So the systems I've adopted, being with data build and on-site companion, they both have a lot of similarities to that structure that I've been able to adopt and actually currently set up so that we can get it going in the short term. And look, once we get down the track where we've got a bit of equity in the business, yeah, we'll certainly feed that into systems development. Yeah, and spend a bit of time and money to have the right people come in and set it up for us rather than me sit back and spend the time doing it, because I can spend my time doing things and be more productive in other areas of the business than trying to work out a software.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I mean, it makes sense to go with what you know. You've been trained in using those systems. You've used them well. So it's not so much being stuck in your ways as it is going with what you know as a way of being more efficient, because there's no real one system. There's no one panacea for in this industry. Any system's only as good as its use, really, at the end of the day. So if you know it really well, data build's known to be a bit clunky, but if you can use it, then the reporting's brilliant, and it's got great. You can get good use out of it. Same with anything. Part of this is talk about the growth, like so your first and second year now, and home warranty insurance. So we had a brief chat on the phone last week, Thursday. You're just talking me through, the information that you got, the business plans, all that sort of thing. Well, yeah. Could you tell us a bit more about that? Were you, how did you get through those hoops?
Yeah, well, look, being fortunate enough to have that experience of setting up the right business plan, marketing plans, and all these other plans that you could possibly think of, yeah, that's enabled me to, when we started Coast Building Company, I mean, it had no trading background. Yeah, we had a bit of startup coin behind us, paid up capital and whatever. But yeah, we really sat down with a local broker and said, righto, here's my business plans. Yeah, can you get us, this amount of warranties? So look, we aimed high to start with. I tried to apply for and get $8 million worth of eligibility straight up. So I think it took probably 2 months worth of work, to and froing with the broker or the underwriter, being iCare now, to a point where they sort of said to us, righto, well, you can have 4 million of eligibility, and off you go. So we basically, like we said, we hoped to sell 10 homes in the first year. Well, look, we sold the 26 or 27 homes that we ended up building. And the biggest issue we had was obviously trying to squeeze all of those into that 4 million of eligibility with 20 open job limit. So we had to construct them really quickly. So, and the only way that you can do that is with a good project management system. So a lot of those homes that we built in that first year were built in that 8-week time frame. So yeah, and look, the stuff that we ended up getting towards the end of those 26 sales were a lot of custom builds where the build itself was in the 600+ K category, and they were taking well beyond the 8 weeks to build, so often around that 26 weeks with the customizing of it and the style of client that we had, retiree, all cashed up, changing things was never a problem for them because I had the money behind them to be able to do it. So that slowed the build down. So during that time frame where we were stretching and stalling, trying to start until one finished and all this sort of caper, we basically were in the process working the whole time with the broker, and then we were finding quickly that broker wasn't servicing what we needed. They were just throwing numbers straight to the underwriter, and we said, well, look, this ain't working. So I went and researched different brokers. We managed to sit down and have a good long chat with one broker that said, look, well, we can get you there. By year 3, this is where you'll be, because we wanted to be in that major builder category because of our vision. So that's in the 10 million plus bracket. So yeah, pretty much. Well, I think that that first year of trading really helped us out, but then I had to sit down and go through my entire business plans and structures and things like that. Because when we kicked off, there was only 2 of us, a salesman and myself, running the entire show. So we ended up with a display home, an office here now with 6 full-time staff employed. Obviously, that changes the whole demography of the business and the way that the home warranty people view that. So it's been a long haul to work with the insurer, but we're in a position now because of our turning around of the projects. They've got us set up so that we could effectively, if it was all slab on ground, 8-week style, 8 to 12 week construction, we'd be able to turn over 28 million year 3 if that happens. So realistically, yeah, we're on target to reach that 17 million year 2, but we'll see how we go. We're pushing for it pretty hard. But yeah, so all I can suggest to everyone, if you're struggling with your home warranty, you really just need to find a good broker that's going to sit down and work the numbers with you, and even throw some ideas at you that you could possibly make changes within your business structure to get that to work. It certainly did work for us. So yeah.
Awesome. What about your sales and marketing processes? What do you have set up there? Obviously, lead flow is important. You want to, prevent any D or Z grade clients coming through. What's that looking like?
Yeah. So I mean, our website certainly looks different now than what it did 12 months ago, because we've obviously got a bit of money to put back towards that to develop it, and it's still currently under development to make changes there. As for the marketing side of things, we did pour, I think, in the first year around that 76,000 into marketing. So that covered all facets: digital media, all your print media outlets, so magazines, newspaper, TV, radio, yeah, and a lot of that sort of stuff. But surprisingly, interesting enough, we've only just in the last month started social media, purely because I haven't had the time to sit with my marketing people, say, hey, look, yeah, I got this, but they keep hounding me and fortunately said, look, we can manage it for a small fee, and they've now got the job, thank goodness, because I'm not social media savvy.
Fantastic. That's amazing. So yeah, you've definitely put some resource into your sales and marketing. How do you just go back to the 80 mil turnover and then the end game of selling it for 800? How do you see yourself backstopping your success? So as you grow, you're obviously going to achieve different stages of net profit and results with cash flow with the business. Have you got a game plan or a way that you can backstop it, so as you grow, you're not going to expose yourself where you could pretty much sink the ship, or where you're not betting the farm, so to speak? Have you got something like that in mind?
Yeah. So we're basically buying real estate. I mean, we've got the display home. We've also got another block of land near the display home. We've also got builder's terms on a couple of blocks on a new subdivision that's just about to open. So basically what we're doing is when we're building and finishing or completing jobs, we're actually paying ourselves a little bit and tucking that aside for that investment to backstop. And another thing with the home warranty side of things, and you even mentioned this the other day at that seminar, Kurt, I've always, as in coming from that franchise model, have adopted this system where basically you're taking a percentage out of your gross profit and tucking that aside in a bank account to support that home warranty growth. Because if the insurer turns around and says, oh, we need you to buy this or do that to pay up capital, we've actually got the cash behind it to support that.
Brilliant. Yeah, that's great. Love it. Biggest challenge right now? What's your biggest challenge?
Look, the biggest challenge for me is probably just the getting the systems going, because I got all of this growth going on and all this stuff's in my head, and I just want to move on. It's actually making the time to get the building software up and running and get the job scheduling fine-tuned so it's working spot on. And eventually have that tablet so that my supervisor's always online, basically out on site, because at the moment that's sort of not in place. The biggest challenge is really, getting that home warranty sorted, but the here and now, I dare say it's probably staff management. Because I'm devoting so much time in other areas of the business. I just see from time to time that my staff, while they're great people, they try hard and make all the effort. It's, sometimes when they get a difficult client, they haven't got the training or the experience to support how to deal with that client, and it sort of reflects, and then that sort of drags me out of the business a little bit to go and self-manage that, which is usually easily resolved. As I said, it always comes back just that communication. So what do I see in the future to sort of compensate that or improve on that? Some training with staff on people management, HR, that sort of thing.
Excellent. That makes sense. That's something that actually it reminds me, when we were at that workshop in Coffs Harbour, you mentioned you've got an office admin person, and I believe it's a woman, and it's the third one you've had in 12 months. I often find guys struggle with getting rid of people, and they'll have someone who's not a good fit, or not quite right, and then they'll justify away, they'll explain away why they should get rid of them. They'll go, oh, but they're good at this, and then 5 years later, it all gets too much, and then they're forced to get rid of them. So tell me a bit about your process and mindset around, going through office admin ladies in less than 12 months.
Yeah. So when we advertise, I mean, I've got a bit of a sort of system that I'll work through to determine if they're the right fit. But you do get people from time to time that walk the walk, talk the talk, and you absolutely believe what they're saying. And it turns out totally the opposite. So pretty much what I do with all employees, I've got an employee manual set up in the system. So it has all of the rules and policies of the company and the company structure and so on like that. And it also has in that employee manual terms of termination and all that sort of stuff, should there be a serious breach and so on. So it's all there in black and white. That's always on the system for any employee to look up at any stage if they feel they need to. But the most important thing that we do when we engage a new employee is basically have them on a 3-month trial period, because I believe that 3 months is certainly sufficient enough to determine whether they're going to fit the mold or not. And also, I mean, a lot of the people that we do employ are not necessarily familiar or come from that building background. So if they come from a customer service background, they might be great with people but need to learn the building stuff. We can teach all the building stuff, but we can't teach customer service as easily, generally because that's how the person is wired. They're usually wired to think a set way, and if you can't sort of get them to change that when they're under stress or under pressure, they always revert back to their natural way. So yeah, so 3-month trial period, definitely, without a doubt.
Mate, we're losing you a little there. Is
Yep.
Your internet connection okay?
Yeah, you still got me?
It says the computer audio is down low. Hope it'll come back in a sec. But I wanted to ask you, we've got a little bit of time left, with the little time that we do have left. You've obviously been learning a hell of a lot as you've been going.
Yep.
What have been your biggest learnings so far?
My biggest learning is simply just coming to the realization that I'm not a builder. As silly as that sounds, I'm in the business of people management, which really effectively, by managing people, the result of that is a home is constructed, and generally, as a rule, my idea is that client should have the ultimate customer experience. So, but that'll only come from communication and people management. So that's probably the biggest learning thing that I've had, not only in the last 14 years, but the initial 2 or 3 years that we've actually been Coast Building Company. Hello? Yeah, mate. Yeah. So basically, how much did you get? All of it, or? Yeah. Okay. No, that's all good. So the biggest thing that I've actually learned in business, not only for the last 14 years, but the 3 years that we've been Coast Building, is that I'm not actually in the business of building. I'm in the business of people management and just coordinating. So the result of what I do is pretty much we build the home, but the way that I see what we do is through people management, everything from the client, staff, tradies, suppliers, through that communication, we end up with a high quality home and the ultimate customer experience, which is the end game from that people management. Because if you don't have the ultimate client experience, ultimately what's going to happen is you'll quickly
turn your business into social media. You don't go there sort of experience. So it's very hard not to sort of overlook that aspect. I just remember one thing that my boss said to me when I was an apprentice. He said, Nick, you know, if you do a good job, this client's going to tell 6 people. And this is before social media. But he said, you know what, if you do a terrible job, this client's going to go out and tell 60 people. Well, in today's day and age with social media, it can go viral and we'll have 6 million people knowing about your business before you can even take a second breath. So I've always remembered that. And so that's why people management and customer experience is pretty high on the agenda for our vision moving forward.
Mate, I couldn't agree more. I absolutely love that. People management. It's so important for clients, your team, yourself, everything. Anything you'd have done differently so far? Just looking back on the short time you've had.
I probably would have spent more time researching the systems. It was certainly easier when I was kicking off on low numbers to have time to develop things. I mean, we didn't have money behind us either to set big high-end cost systems up. There's plenty of them out there. I think you and I discussed Framework the other day as well. Look, it's a great system. It's almost a complete package without the estimate inside it. But for me, for all of the modules and everything that I needed back then, 150K was a lot of money. So, I think, just having those systems early on, if you're going to go big, is the biggest goal. But, I mean, that's only coming from having 14 years of playing sport with good systems and all of that in place where, you come out, you have this big vision of going big, but you've got nothing behind you to go big straight up. So that was probably the biggest challenge there.
Mate, love it. I've got to run. I know you do too. Thanks again for joining us. Really appreciate it, man. We'll talk soon.
No worries. Thanks, guys. See you, everyone. Bye.
Cheers, bye. Well, there you have it, guys. Hallmark of leadership is decision making, and I think you can all gauge very quickly from just the way Michael speaks with conviction that the decision he made, he's all in on the 800 mil outcome, 2043 to sell his business for that amount. And it's interesting because that one decision has impacted all other decisions, his systems, his people, his culture, and hopefully you got a bit out of that. The reality is the guy's been in business for 2 years, but let's face it, 14 years of quality experience with GJ Gardner. So he took all of that and he's investing that into his future. Hopefully you found that inspiring. Great to have you guys on the call. Really appreciate you joining us. Make sure you capture your action items, anything relevant to you, and we'll see you on the other side. Take care.